Welcome back to Animal Crossing New Horizons. I'm dear darling, and shall we see what's going on on our lovely island of Fawnhallow today, where we'll be vibing out as per usual. Animal Crossing, you know, tomorrow's Good Friday, Easter celebrations, whoop whoop. I say whoop whoop, I'm not really sure what you're particularly meant to celebrate when it comes to Easter. Of course, Easter eggs and all that, but you know, that's not exactly traditional, but I don't really know what traditional is, apart from, like, I think you have a roast. That's about my extent of Easter traditions go, of course, and rest of it is filled up with, like, I don't know, like chocolate eggs or something along that ilk. Anyway, good evening everyone. Right now in Fawnhollow it's 9:27 PM on Thursday, April 6th, 2023. We got Crazy Red visiting, it seems, as well. Why don't we resume our conversations, I suppose, about the holiday, I think. What can we talk about today? Where's my stream deck? Hidden under my tablet, there you go. So what did I talk about last time? Oh, I talked about the spa hotel, of course. And we took a train. I mean, like, I guess I could talk about trains. Trains aren't the most interesting thing in the world. Then we actually got the caravan itself. I suppose that in itself is probably one of the more interesting things that we can actually talk about. the motorhome, as it's called. Well, I suppose as it's meant to specifically be called as opposed to I don't really know what the difference is between, like, a motorhome versus a caravan versus etc. etc. It's not like they're necessarily all the same to me, but is it more like I don't really know what the difference is. I assume that's Audis. I don't really know, to be perfectly honest. But I think it's the peppy characters who have this shoujo anime thing. Someone's got fleas. And I'm going to embarrass you, I suppose, in front of all your friends, Biscuit. Nope, it's Raymond. I'm sorry. This is very rude. So it seems like flea season is back in season. But yeah, so at this point we actually got the motorhome. You know, we took a train from our hotel in Barcelona to... Where do we go next? Murcia? Well, it was on my way to Murcia. It wasn't actually in Murcia. We stopped off somewhere. Like partway between Valencia, I think. That sounds about right. Yeah, we went to, like, this motorhome company who honestly had a lot of caravans. They didn't actually speak, like, much English or very little English. So as I understand it, most of the conversations happened in through Google Translate, which might I say Google Translate really has improved over these last few years to be able to accurately, I suppose. Well, I say accurately. Maybe it wasn't accurate. I don't really know. Contain a hold a conversation, I suppose, in two different languages. Like, that's pretty crazy if you think about it. Back in the day, translating tools were not all that effective. I mean, even still now, it's got problems, obviously. But if you ever need to translate, like, a couple of words or something, or get the general concept or something across, Google Translate does incredibly well, to be perfectly honest. And especially for languages which are rather similar in structure or whatever, I think it translates them between them pretty well. At least that's my experience with them. Again, you know, probably shouldn't quote me on that because I can only translate between a couple of languages, so I can't really, you know, talk about the veracity of that statement. But yeah, I'm not really sure what else to say really about getting a motorhome. I wasn't particularly involved with that sort of business. Like, I didn't, as I said, like, I mostly sort of just, like, looked at places to go. I didn't really organise, like, accommodation of that sort of thing. The general, my general input was like, you know, I trust you a lot to pick a cool motorhome, and I'll basically just, like, sign me off on any single one you choose. And they picked a very nice one. I'm not gonna lie. It was a 4-person one because there was 4 of us. I think I talked about it a little bit. I'm not sure, but I mean, when you start at the front of a motorhome, there's, like, the seats for the 2 drivers to go, you know, well, driving, I suppose. Above the 2 drivers, there was actually, like, a bed, because it was, like, a pull-down bed, which, you know, I did end up sleeping on for a bit, because where we ended up swapping beds halfway through, and I don't really remember the reason anymore, but I think it was because it was cold in the front part of the caravan, but I never felt that cold, but maybe that's because I just, like, wore more layers, I don't really know. But there was, like, a bed over there, which you pull down when you know, pulled into your pit stop or whatever. You put the chairs down and you bring the bed out. Just behind the front the front 2 driving seats, there was the dining table, which was like an unfolding driving table but could fold away to half size, and 2 seats on the side, which is where I basically sat for most of the time. All the time we were driving, I think. Mainly because I couldn't drive, so obviously I was never going to be in a driving seat. I never rode shotgun, mainly because I just kind of liked it better in that back seat, because I sort of, like, could wistfully look out the window. Just my own preference, to be perfectly honest. You know, I don't know. I think it's because it sends me back to sort of like a nostalgic period of my childhood, sitting behind like the person who's driving or one of the people who's driving, and you know, it feels a bit more carefree, I suppose, in that aspect. But yeah, and then just behind that there was like a kitchen area where on one side there was like a hob, like a gas stove with a sink, and on the other side the other side was like the entrance, I suppose, to the actual motorhome itself. But there was a fridge as well, and there was like a TV, but I don't think we really used a TV like ever. Instead, the TV made like a horribly rattling noise all the time we were driving, which is amusing because the people who actually gave us a motorhome gave us like styrofoam or something to basically like slot onto a stand to make sure it didn't like make a atrociously loud rattling noise, which, you know, sometimes it came undone every now and then, so I'd have to like redo it after a few pit stops here and there, which is, you know, not the worst thing in the world, but it was quite loud. But to be fair, a lot of things were quite loud. It also reminds me that there was like a skylight in the front part of the motorhome. There's one in the back as well, but the front part one was like ever so slightly open. It like didn't quite seal shut properly, which made it very like annoying, because there was like a constantly like loud sound, and if you ever tried to pull the blinds across, the blinds would just like pop up because they were like paper blinds. So yeah, that wasn't the greatest thing in the world, but that's, you know, that's not like a deal breaker or anything. Anyway, behind that we had, you know, as I said, we had a pretty big motorhome, and we had a shower cubicle on one side, and we had like a mini bathroom in the other. It really is quite like tiniest bathroom. It was like the smallest toilet ever. Like it was like the size of, I don't even know what to compare it to be honest. It was the size of like the toilet seat itself. If you put, oh, it's not very accurate. It's like the size of like a plate or something. It's perhaps how I describe it, like a dinner plate or something. It was wild. It was also a toilet which could like pivot. I basically like very, very rarely used it because I did not like using it. It was also incredibly like high up. It was a thing I remember, so it was not very comfortable to sit on, and I basically didn't like use it. So basically I always just, you know, went to the bathroom when we were out and about or at the campsite itself. So, you know, different strokes for different folks. But yeah, there was also a sink there, and then at the back there was a bedroom which had most of the space to it, most of the storage space, and it's actually where I kept most of my stuff, to be honest, because I had a lot of things which I needed to have access to, mainly makeup, I'm going to be honest, and hair stuff in the morning, so that's just what ended up being convenient. And honestly, it was a really good motor. Well, okay, I haven't stayed in that many motorhomes like on the road. As I've spoken before, I think in like the episode like Charlotte houses, I've stayed in caravan parks, in caravans, and like I suppose those are technically motorhomes, right? Because they're actually like houses which stay put, or stayed in like chalet houses, etc., etc. But I've very rarely, I don't think I've ever been in a caravan which can move, and especially like stayed in there for a prolonged time, especially on holiday. Or like an Atlas moth. But honestly, I think our one was fantastic. You know, props to my friends for choosing a very good one, I would certainly say. It was particularly roomy. I don't know how easy it was or annoying it was to drive necessarily. I'd imagine there was always a base level of annoyance, I suppose, while driving it, because it's just huge, to say the least. So yeah, like it's pretty massive. I'd imagine manoeuvring it is quite annoying. But it was very roomy as well. Like I never felt particularly cramped in there, to be perfectly honest. Like even if we had to stay there for like the entire 2 weeks rather than like going out all the time, I think I'd be okay. You know, 2 weeks is probably a bit of a long time, but it's not the worst thing in the world, is probably what I'd say. What else was I gonna say? Yeah, so it was particularly roomy. There was a lot of windows. It was nice. I thought it was reasonably well insulated. It had a lot of facilities, like sort of things as well. Like it had like an electrical power box or whatever, which you can use to, of course, like power electricity. Mainly, I just kind of used to charge my phone. I think that's basically what everyone used it for. It, of course, you know, had running water. It had like a water storage tank. It turns out you can't have too many showers in in the caravan before the thing called the grey water. The grey water just being sort of like the drain water eventually sort of filled up. I think we got like 2.5 showers in, theoretically. To be fair, one of the showers was me, you know, and I tend to need a lot more water, I suppose, because I have a lot of hair. But honestly, it lasted a reasonable amount of time. There's a lot of stuff I learned about motorhomes. In fact, you know, obviously the grey water needs to go somewhere, and you had to drain it at specific areas and like these camps and whatnot. There was, of course, the sewage bucket, which I never touched. You know, thank you to my friend who basically did that all the time, because I would, you know, simply not be able to handle it. Like if push came to shove, obviously I would do it, but it was sort of just like you know, I'd literally rather do anything else I did a lot of cleaning up, I think, in my motorhome, which is fair enough because, you know, I sort of just like naturally do that while I just sort of sit around things, to be honest. So if anything, it was kind of like a win-win situation for us all. But yeah, it was a pretty cool motorhome. What I want to say, would I recommend it? Yeah, honestly, if you're curious about trying, you know, like a motorhome holiday or something like that, I would say give it a shot. You know, why not? You know, it's not something which you can obviously try every single day. Okay, we need to catch a few more bugs. Let's chop some trees as well. It's not exactly like something you do every day, I would say. I don't even know what bug. Oh, we got a flea. That's a bug we got. Yeah, it's not exactly something you would do every day. So when those opportunities come by, you know, they're quite hard to come by, I suppose, in the first place. So why not give them a little bit of a shot? There you are, Audie. A cheerleading outfit. That's very like suitable for you, I think, Audie. But yeah, what else can we say about the caravan? There's a lot of other things. I saw I just had a shooting star. There's a lot of other things when it comes to like sort of caravan maintenance, which I didn't really like know much of. Like there's something called, I can't remember what it's called. Is it called AdBlue? That sounds about right. Whereas basically it's something which you're meant to add to, because I think it was a diesel, maybe, fuel caravan which we had. I swear I heard a shooting star, but maybe I might just be making it up. That we had, and you're meant to add AdBlue to it to make sure that it's something which like helps. I'm not sure if regulate the fuel is really the right term, but it's much more so that like it's an additive to the fuel to make it more like environmentally friendly or something. Like all the stuff it produces is not as bad. I don't know really the details, I suppose, of the nitpicks of it per se, but I just know of its existence. Anyway, the caravan was pretty cool. It was a very interesting thing. Like, I don't remember why I did this necessarily, but like when they were like being showed around the caravan, I just sort of like stayed put and watched the rags instead of actually following them. And I don't really remember why I did that. I think in my head I thought they were only going to be gone for like a very short time, and it was just going to be like, here's a caravan and we're going to bring it out and show it to you. But instead they were actually gone for like 15-20 minutes or something. Well, the person who was instructed basically told them everything about the caravan. Which is fine, of course, you know, I trust my friends to be able to understand them, and they did, to be perfectly honest. Most things went off without a hitch. I think the only thing was, like, getting hot water or something, which is a little bit iffy here and there. DIY projects, oh yeah, I actually forgot. And one of the points, I think it was when we were in Gibraltar, you know, I hadn't had a shower for a while because like the shower facilities that we had at the places we stayed were like terrible. So I was like, oh, I'll wait till Gibraltar, and it's like at Gibraltar we didn't have it, and I'm like, okay, I need a shower, so I'm going to use a shower facility. And actually it was surprisingly not that bad having a shower inside the caravan. I thought it would be a lot worse than it was, and honestly it was genuinely fine. The worst part about it is the fact that I think at the time we did the hot water part wrong, so I basically didn't have hot water for the entire thing, so I just had a cold shower, which, you know, in a hot country like Spain, you know, it's honestly not the worst. I was quite sweaty or anything, so any shower I suppose is a good shower at that point. It wasn't exactly the most comfortable, but basically I just sort of survived by, you know, turning it on, like having a bit of a shower and like turning it off again. I think. Was it a cold shower? I don't know. At some point it was like the heating wasn't properly like figured out. It required a bit of experimentation. That's all I remember. Anyway, that was the only shower I had in the caravan. The rest of the showers I had at actual campsites, because the actual campsite showers were better, I'm going to be honest. Apart from this one we went to. Like, we stayed out of a lot of different places, like, obviously. Went to Murcia. Their shower, fantastic. Just absolutely brilliant. I can't complain. Their bathroom was top tier. And then we went to, where did we go to after that? I don't even remember. Not Granada. Was it Granada? We might have gone to Granada next. If it was a Granada one I was thinking about, you had to pay to use their showers. And they were pretty good as well, I would say. But, you know, 3 minutes is not, you know, I basically sped ran that shower. 3 minutes is definitely not enough time necessarily for me personally, because I have a lot, I have a lot of hair. It takes a bit of time to actually, like, shower the hair. And then we stayed at Gibraltar? No, Seville? One of the places. Seville or Gibraltar? I can't remember. Didn't have a shower. So that was not great. The Seville place shower was like terrible. I'm gonna be honest, the facilities were not all that amazing there. It was very much the place we stayed at was not really much of a caravan park, as it was much more just like a, hey, this is kind of where like people go. It's where like, it was like a garage or something where people also, you know, park their caravans because it has the same facilities that is required or something. We stayed in one other place, I think. went to Valencia, but I mean Valencia we had like Valencia we stayed at like an actual like camping park. It was fantastic. It was by far and away the best facilities we had, apart from a hotel, of course. But it was just great. I remember having a shower. I had a shower every day there. You know what? We have times where I just had like a shower every other day or something. It's top tier. But anyway, we're here to talk about caravan. The caravan is interesting. There's a little anecdote, I suppose, when we were like perusing for a caravan to actually rent out. Is we were trying to obviously find one for sleeping arrangements, because you know everyone kind of needs a bed. And one of them, I remember my friend looked at and being like, I don't see where the other bed is in this one. And then he got to like the final picture or something, and it just showed like the boot compartment, and there was like a bed inside the boot. And he was like, there's no way that counts as one of the beds for his caravan. But apparently it did, or maybe it didn't. It was also, it might have been because it was a family-sized caravan. There was like these tiny cot-like things, which I assume were beds for children. They were so small, they must have been like less than a metre tall. So, you know, it's not like your children can stay there for particularly long. Probably ones that are like age 7 or something are probably too tall for it, I'd imagine. So yeah, not really suitable for adults. Just the thought of like putting someone in the boot, I suppose, as a bed is just crazy. For one, obviously it's going to be insanely cold. Like, even though Spain isn't like the coldest country in the world, even at night time, it's still probably going to get like near 0-ish. Maybe not in summer, but we're a reminder that we went during like March. So what else can I say about a caravan? Oh yeah, there's another interesting thing which I didn't realise about caravans or motorhomes, is the fact that every single cabinet, every single handle was basically like a locked handle. Well, I don't know how to describe it except for like it had a handle, but inside the like the pull grip part of a handle there was like a little lever which you push down to actually unlock the cabinet and have it open. And I remember when I first saw it, I was like, why is every single cabinet like this? How very strange. And then we started driving and then seeing how much things moved around, I suppose, on the cabinet, just like even things just which I thought were tucked to the side properly, was just like, okay, you know, I totally understand why this cabinet needs so much like to hold itself in place, because otherwise things would just literally go flying everywhere. And seeing as we had an entire drawer filled with knives and sharp objects, it's probably a good thing that things kind of stayed in place, huh? Anyway, we did like a tour thing of a caravan when we first got it, and like a walkthrough tour, despite the fact I hadn't really seen it before. It was cool. There's a lot of lights, like a huge amount of lights, because that bed bit I talked about, which was above the seats, like there was like a huge light strip on that entire thing, so it was really well illuminated, like crazy well illuminated. And there was like small compartments. Like we put mostly our luggage stuff all in the back boot. There was also like a front compartment, which I think is where we put recyclables temporarily. Basically, when like our bin filled up and we ran out of space. The windows were nice. You had to keep your windows shut, I suppose, while you're driving around on the motorway. Or not motorway, just like driving around in general. Otherwise, I don't know, I guess the window gets stuck open and like pulling it off on the hinges. We also had like the side seats, the ones which are not the driving or the shotgun seat. It was weird as well, because it's like normally a bench thing, but then like when you had to go into driving mode, you had to take all of the sofa cushions off, like lift these like certain component and wooden parts down, and then put the sofa cushions back to actually like sit on it as a chair facing forward, which I couldn't help but think, you know, I was like, surely there must be a better way for this to be designed so it can be used as both ways simultaneously. But what do I know? I suppose it still worked out, you know. The bed was pretty cool. Yeah, this is the first place we stayed, Murcia. Murcia, I suppose we'll get onto next time we end up talking about the holiday stuff. But the Murcia campsite was fantastic. Like we pulled up so late at like 9 or 10 p.m. and it was closed, and we were like, oh no, what's going on? But you know, they actually had a system where it's basically, hey, if you turn up at night time and people aren't here, just like pull into one of the spots and just pay in the morning. You know, it was very much an honest system, and we were just like, it was lovely. It's actually like the people who ran that campsite were just so sweet. Despite the fact I never actually directly spoke with them, I only like sort of spoke kind of in passing. And it even had Wi-Fi. They had like 2 campsites. They had like a main campsite with like electricity, and a sub campsite which was just basically a parking lot. And then like only the main site had Wi-Fi, but I still like sat there to use a Wi-Fi, basically to upload all the photos I had on Google Photos instead of using my data. Sneaky. Yeah, and motorhomes, I guess. Like, what's the actual definition of a motorhome versus a caravan? Motorway home, ain't got no homes, living all our life upon the street. Motorhome is a type of self-propelled recreational vehicle which offers mobile living accommodation. So I get, okay, motorhome is one you can drive, and a caravan is one which you get pulled, I suppose. Cool. There you go, motorhomes. it was kind of cool, is what can I say? Would I buy one in the future? Maybe not. Would I rent one again on holiday? Yeah, I could see me renting it again on holiday. If there's like a holiday I'm going on where I need to go to a load of different places, totally fine. Anyway, I'm going to round this episode off here. So if you have been watching, thank you very much. It's been Animal Crossing New Horizons. I've been Dear Darling. Likes, comments, subscription, shares are greatly appreciated. Twitter, Discord down below. Hope to see each other again, but for now, it's our farewell. So until next time, bye-bye for now. What happened to a... Oh, you can't sit down while you're sitting down. I guess that makes sense.